I said I want to talk about Pandora, and for a couple of reasons. And number one is if you go onto Google, because when I looked at I had looked at Byron's book, but I had not taught this aspect of evil in the world mythology class. And when I looked in Byron for how evil came into the world, I really couldn't find anything. So I went to Google and I typed in myths of how evil came into the world. And almost every hit I had was on Pandora. Now, Pandora was created by Zeus and was offered to Prometheus. She was intended to be a punishment. At this point, there were no women in the world. There were only men, and Prometheus had made them. Zeus made Pandora as an intended punishment for Prometheus. And Zeus offered Pandora to Prometheus, but because Prometheus had foresight, he said, no way, I know this woman's going to bring a lot of trouble in the world. I don't want anything to do with her. And so then Zeus gives her to Epimetheus, who is Prometheus' brother. And Epimetheus means hindsight. This means that Epimetheus could not look into the future. He could only look into the past and say, wow, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So Epimetheus and Pandora get married, wed, live together, whatever you want to say. And as a wedding present, Zeus gave Pandora, some say it was a chest, and some say it was an urn. And Zeus instructs her, do not open this for any reason. But he had also instilled within Pandora the very human characteristic trait of curiosity. So Zeus set her up from the beginning. He knew she could not resist opening this chest. And of course, she's at home one day while Epimetheus is off doing whatever Epimetheus did. And she opened the chest or the urn, and all the troubles of the world flew out. Greed, hunger, death, all of these sickness, all of these things poured out of the chest or the urn, and she slapped the lid back down, and hope was left in the chest. Was Pandora evil for allowing the ills of the world into the world? And I think most of us would say, no, she wasn't evil for doing that. However, she has a very close parallel in Eve. And yes, I'm going to someplace here. I'm not getting off on bunny trails. I'll bring it back. In the Hebrew Scriptures, Eve was, of course, Adam's, it depends upon which version you read. She might have been his first wife. She might have been his second wife. Depends upon whether you buy into Lilith or not. But she was Adam's mate. And Yahweh had told Adam, you can eat from any tree in the Garden of Eden, but you can't eat from that one. That is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Not knowledge, just knowledge, but the knowledge of good and evil. And so Adam told Eve, you can't eat from that. And of course, Eve was persuaded by the serpent. Eve had hubris to eat from the tree because he told her, if you eat from the tree, you will become like a god. And so Eve eats from the tree, realizes that good and evil exist. And so I guess you would say at this point within Hebrew Scripture, evil entered the world. Because if you don't know what evil is, can you be evil? But by the same token, if you don't know what good is, and if you don't know the difference between good and evil, are you good? At any rate, she offers the fruit to Adam. He resists, and then he eats. And Yahweh comes back on and curses both of them and runs them out of the garden. And one of the reasons why he runs them out of the garden is because if they eat from the other tree that is there that they're not supposed to eat from, which is the tree of immortality, they will become like gods. And so Adam and Eve are expelled from the Garden of Eden. And the garden is an archetype too, and you see this in many myths throughout the world. So was Eve evil for eating of the fruit? Eve and Pandora both suffered from, Eve was definitely hubristic. I don't think Pandora was, but they both suffered from disobedience. And in seven deadly sins and those things that define what sin is, disobedience is a sin. And so both of them were punished for being disobedient. And their act of disobedience affected the entire world. When Pandora was disobedient, she let out all the bad things that plague people. When Eve was disobedient, one of the curses was that Adam would till the soil, Eve would give birth in pain, and their children they would die. I'm not going to go into the theology of whether or not Adam and Eve would have died if they had not eaten of the tree of knowledge and good and evil. But it was a curse that was to last, well, until the end of time, I guess you could say. The same thing with Pandora. And so both of these women suffered from or committed acts of disobedience. Do we still look upon disobedience as a sin? It definitely was in those days, even though the Greeks might not have termed it a sin. But the thing is about both Eve and Pandora, they were, of course, female. And females were seen as being much more gullible than were males. And so the fact that it was women who brought the troubles of the world onto humanity was fitting because of their gullibility. Pandora was not able to overcome her curiosity. Even though Zeus instilled it in her, Eve was not able to say no to the serpent, even though Yahweh knew this was going to happen. Oh, and by the way, all heck didn't cut loose in Eden until Adam ate of the fruit. Yahweh didn't say a word until Adam ate from the tree. And Adam had it straight from God. It was Yahweh who told Adam, do not eat. Eve got it secondhand. So Adam also suffers from disobedience. Now, was he gullible? Not like Eve was necessarily gullible. So who was the greatest transgressor? Was it Eve who was fooled by the serpent? Or was it Adam who ate the fruit with his eyes wide open because he wanted to please Eve? Interesting. Well, to me it's interesting, but hey, I'm a nerd. So the disobedience and the fact that it was women who brought the problems into the world. And I'm going to stop there, but I still have some stuff to say.